Hello, beautiful people. I'm in Florida right now, about to bring my kids to Disney World, and I can tell you they're pretty excited. But I did want to come on the HR morning show to share my perspective on something I'm really passionate about. I want to talk about the candidate experience in 2024 and 2025. I'm going to be blunt. 2024 was rough. We had just a huge amount of unqualified candidates just clogged the system, and it left some great candidates buried and never seen. What's happening? Companies were cutting off reviews of resumes after 100 when they were getting 1,000. But what happens if we missed out on some great candidates? So in 2025, it's time to flip that script and just make the process way smoother, more human, and respectful of candidates' time. The first thing that you should focus on is clear communication. Let's keep our candidates updated. We can argue, can we do it with automation, or I prefer the human touch? Simple but powerful. The other thing that we have to do is let's not send assessments to candidates before they've had any human contact. That's just a bad experience. Let's just make them feel valued, not just part of a process. The other thing is let's leverage AI wisely. We can use it for early screening, but let's keep humans in the loop for the later stage. Let's think about empathy first. Let's map the candidate experience from their perspective so they have a relatable, respectful process. It's smooth. So let's make 2025 the year we treat candidates with the respect they deserve. Small tweaks, big impact. Now let's get back to the panel so I can drive off to Disney World.
Wait, I can't hear you. Is it me?
It's me. I was muted.
Yikes.
Guys, you could just unmute me if you see that. All right.
I
What
like
do you
sometimes, yeah, sometimes I just don't know.
fail? What's a bigger fail, that or like this Amazon gift thing that they were talking about?
Definitely Amazon.
Yeah. All
You're
right,
you're never worse than Amazon.
that's good. Well, what do you
Go.
what do you think about this? What do you think about Canada experience as a whole?
Well, as someone who actually formerly worked at a company that automated the sourcing, screening, and
Name and
scheduling.
shame. Name and shame.
Well, actually, my favorite employer ever called Wade and Wendy, and they got acquired, sadly, and that's when I left. But I will say it was interesting. I think it was at a time in 2020 is when I joined, and it was at a time when people weren't yet really talking about AI as much as like we're seeing people talk about AI now. So we were a little bit ahead of the curve, but um, the I think there's a time and place for AI. And I think that if you're screening people and we were using like their resumes to sort of screen them for a first round interview, and I think it was efficient, it was cost effective, it was time effective. It helped the recruiter kind of source candidates that actually fit the job description. And I think at the same time, the human touch is really an important piece of this. And I think personally, as someone who has been onboarded in the wrong way in the past, and not had like a one-on-one with a manager within 3 weeks of starting, like that was a huge error, and it was something that just made me feel unimportant, insignificant, like not really a part of the team. It made me feel disengaged, and I ultimately left really quickly after that. So, in my opinion, the human touch is the most important element. And the video of Serge, it kind of reminded me of my chat with Mervin at HR Tech, which if you haven't seen, it's on the Purple Acorn YouTube channel. And we really talk about like our multi-generational perspectives on how AI should be used and will probably be used in the future, and both like the pros and the risks of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's kind of like what Clark was talking about earlier with like the automation and AI, which I know they get interchanged. There is a difference between AI and automation, but sometimes some of these things are just automated as well. I think it's. I just think like in general, the whole candidate experience thing is for most people full of rejection, and so I just think like when we look at baseline, have an open job, I have one open job. If 1,000 people apply, I still have one open job, right? And maybe I hired multiple people. Let's say I had 2, 3 people. Okay, even if I hired 2 or 3 people, 997 people are getting rejected from the job. Rejection hurts, rejection sucks. So I think the more we can use AI to help with things like just transparency and communication, effective communication, or like timely communication, I think it can be helpful. But I'm also seeing from the candidate experience and what candidates are doing. Candidates are playing the numbers game. They're applying to lots of jobs. And so we're just at this, I think we're just at this weird inflection point where market's down for a lot of these corporate positions. So you got a lot more people applying to jobs. A lot of those people are going to be disappointed no matter what you do. Even if you provide an amazing candidate experience, I can promise you this: if you don't get the job, it's going to suck still.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, it's almost like somebody had said it. It's almost like it's like a horror story and like trying to make it into a romance. Like it's at the end of the day, it's gonna suck for most people because you don't get the job. And if you go through the rounds of interviews and you still don't get the job, it's like it's still gonna hurt no matter how great that candidate experience is. So, um, but I do think we're just at this low point right now where you have a lot more people applying. I'm always interested to see as we start to switch into more of a market where there's more open jobs and more hiring takes place. Maybe we start to see AI being used in a much more positive way, and companies kind of figure out, how to get that balance right.